Users or panelists on the line. When you are ready to begin the presentation, press the Start Broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and good morning to everyone. Nagarjuna from Hana Academy. We're going to start today's session. So first I would like to recap for 5 minutes what we have seen in the previous session regarding SLT. SLT stands for SAP Landscape Transformation. The version of SLT we are using is 2.0. SLT can connect to SAP, also to non-SAP systems to get data in real time. The connection between SAP to SLT is an RFC connection. SLT system and the SAP system both are ABAP based systems. The two ABAP based systems to communicate to each other is an RFC connection. If it is a non-SAP system, it is a DB connection. SLT to HANA is a DB connection. First we need to configure SLT system. The main transaction code in SLT is LTRC. LTRC is the main transaction code in in SLT. It stands for LT Replication Server Cockpit. The first thing we need to do is to create a configuration. Provide the configuration name, number of jobs required. It depends on number of tables we replicate to SAP HANA. At an average, we require one job for 4 tables. These are data transfer jobs. Data transfer jobs are those jobs which are used by replication jobs. You also have load jobs. 50% of the replication jobs are load jobs. So we have to specify how many jobs are we going to consume. How many background jobs are we going to consume? We have to mention in the configuration. What RFC connection are we going to use? What is the target schema? What is the target system we are going to connect? Whether we are going to use real time or batch process. We have to mention all these parameters. Once we mention all these parameters, then the configuration is successfully created. the name of the configuration, the same name is taken for schema. Whatever the name we specify for the configuration, the same name is taken by schema. Tables like DD02L, DD02T, DD08L are replicated inside the schema. SLT can be accessed from LTRC. SLT can also be accessed from HANA Studio, from the data provisioning at the quick view. From LTRC we can access SLT. For every configuration that is created, a mass transfer ID is generated by system. Mass transfer ID is the ID that is uniquely identifying the configuration. Mass transfer ID is the ID that uniquely identifies the configuration. The jobs are also identified by the mass transfer ID. We can check the number of jobs that are running in the T code SM37. When you see the number of active jobs in SM37, you see a master job. When SLT is started, the first thing that starts is the master job. Master job is a job that initiates the data transfer jobs. And these jobs are always active to check for any changes or any insert, updates, and deletes happening on the source system. Immediately these jobs replicate data to HANA. Now coming to the options to load, to replicate, to suspend, to resume, to stop. There are 5 different options available for a HANA consultant to perform in SLT. On the Friday session, we have seen how to use load. So when do we use load? Load is mainly used for non-frequently changing data scenarios, especially master data. When you use load, it loads the data and the job comes to stop position. Whenever you make any changes to the data in the source system, whether you insert, you delete, you update, any operation performed on the source system will not be reflected in the target system unless and until we load again. So every time when the change is occurred on the source data, we have to load again. So when you load again, by default system deletes the previous table available in HANA. It deletes the previous table, recreates the table, and reloads the data. For example, if you have 1,000,000 records, only one record is changed. In order to load that change, it has to drop the complete table, reload the data with the record that has been changed, which is a very time-consuming process. So that is why we have another option called replicate. So what is the use of replicate? Replicate is used in a scenario only for the first time we do load, and from the next time any inserts, updates or deletes happening on the source data, immediately SLT will replicate data into HANA. So how does this work internally? We have seen how a replicate works. Whenever we replicate a table for the first time, system does load. Once the load is executed, means when we say load is executed, it means that whatever the data that we have in the source system, the complete set of data is loaded to HANA. Once the load is complete, once the system have same number of records, then system changes the status from load to replicate. Instead of executed, it goes to in process. So when you do load, load executed, again from load, system automatically change from load to in process, and from load to replication. From load, it changes the status to replicate, and from executed, it changed to in process. So during the change from load to replicate and executed to in process, system creates two additional objects. One is known as DB trigger, and the second one is known as logging tables. DB trigger is a small piece of procedural code that monitors for any events that takes place on a table. An event could be a change of data. You change, you insert, we delete. Any operation that is happening on the table is recorded by DB triggers. And the change is forwarded to logging table. Logging table is a table which is also known as queue table. It's a queue table. It holds all the changes, newly created records. From logging tables, the read module read data, sends to the SLT system. From read module, it sends over to the SLT system. In SLT, it checks any business rules are applied for this set of records. And finally, it goes to the write modules and write module write data in SAP HANA. So how does the replicate work is, for the first time, it load, executed. Once the complete set of data is loaded to HANA, it change the status from load to replicate, from executed to in process. During the change of the status, it creates two additional objects. One is DB trigger, logging table. DB trigger to identify any events on the table. Logging table is a queue table. The changes are forwarded to logging table. Read module reads from logging table, sends to the SLT system, checks for any conversion of data. Finally, write module write data to HANA. So this is for replicate. So now we're going to start with exercise on how to replicate tables in SAP HANA. So let me log into the ECC system. So log on to the ECC. So let's give the username and password. Let's enter the T code LTRC. The other day we created a configuration. So my configuration is deleted by so here if you see there are existing configurations which is already created. I'll use the existing configuration. So instead of using two configuration, we have to see two configuration have two mass transfer ID, 152 and 151. In order to check whether the configuration is active, because we did not create this, but we are going to use this. So I'll check on this MK07SLT. Let us go to SM37, create session, SM37, click enter. Let us only see active jobs. Let us remove everything. We'll see only active jobs. Click execute. So you have both 151 as well as 152 jobs that are running in the background. So I'll go back. So we can use any of these configurations because both these jobs are running in the background. So I choose to go for MK07SLT. Also, we need to verify the status of the metadata tables at HANA Studio. Click Start, All Program, SAP HANA, HANA Studio. Let's log into the system. Window, Show View, Quick View. Click Data Provisioning. Click Finish. Close Quick View. Let's go for MK07 SLT. The target schema is the name of the configuration. So let us select this configuration, nothing but the name of the schema. So we have these tables in process. Let us open catalog. Let us open catalog. Under catalog, let us go to M07 SLT, MK07 SLT. So let us expand the schema, expand tables folder. So what we're going to do now is, we created a custom table on the other day, starting with Jet Copa. I'm going to use that table to replicate to HANA. So before that, I just want to draw this diagram. So the other day, we have created a table. Let's go to SC11. The table name is Jet C1 Copa table. Let's click Display. Let's click Contents and click Execute. So these two records we have in this table. So I'll copy this table. So this is the table. Now first what we are going to do is, as usual, I'll first load this table. First we are going to perform a load activity. So once we load the table, complete table will be created in SAP HANA. So in order to load, let's go to the T code LTRC, click execute, click data provisioning, select start load, provide the table name, click execute. Table schedule with action start load. Table current action is scheduled. Current action is scheduled. Click refresh. The action change from schedule, load table, no replication. We did not do replication, we just load. So it says no replication. So do we see logging table? It's empty. Do we see DB triggers? It's empty. Logging table and DB triggers are empty. So when you do load operation, when you do load, there are no DB triggers or logging tables created by system. They're empty. Let's go back to HANA Studio. Let's click refresh. Let's click on this refresh. Schema, table name, action is load, the status is executed, and this is the time. In order to see the table over here, right click on tables folder, refresh. The new table is here. CE COPA table, right click. Open data preview. Not authorized. We have to provide the authorization. I'll show you how to provide the authorization. Meanwhile, I'll log into system. I'll go to the same schema. I'll expand the tables. Right click on the table, open data preview. So this is the data on the ECC system. So this is the data on the ECC system, and this data we have in HANA. Okay. So what we are going to do now, the table now is available in HANA. I'm going to change the status of the table. The table is in HANA now. We're going to change the status of the table from load. I'm going to change to replicate. So when we perform replicate, TC, I would like to perform replicate in LTRC. At the data provisioning, start replicate. I want to change from load to replicate. But before I make a change, I'll insert one record into this table. Say company code 3000, sales organization is 100, 400 and 500. I'll save. Database record successfully created. Click back. Now I have 3 entries in the source. Let us go to HANA. Click refresh. So how many entries we have? Still we have only 2 entries. So third entry is not created in HANA. The reason is load is executed only when you have action replicate in process. We need to have this status. Only then whatever the change that you make is updated to HANA. For load, it doesn't update. It's only one-time job. So in order to get data in real time, I'll go back to LTRC. I'll change to start replication, and click execute. So once I execute, you'll notice here, first the table will get deleted. Table will get completely deleted. After the deletion of table, it creates a new table again. Freshly it creates a new table. Whatever the data that you have, means we have 3 records on the source system. Those 3 records will be loaded to HANA. So during this time, it will execute load executed for the first time, and then when it changed from load to replicate, system will create logging tables with the naming convention /1CADMC /50, and the random number is generated by system with a similar naming convention, and the DB trigger is activated automatically by system. Now once this logging table and DB trigger is created, once the logging table and DB trigger is created, in the HANA Studio, it changed to replicate in process. So after it changed from replicate in process, from now onwards, whatever the activity that you do over here, the data is sent in this manner to HANA. From application to TB triggers, logging tables, read modules, structure mapping, transformation, write modules, and HANA. Load is very simple, just table to table replication. But when you change, this flow is created by system. So I'll go back and now click on this and click execute. So all this will happen very quickly. It'll just happen everything probably in 30 seconds to 1 minute. So let us do it very quickly so that we can see all this process. So once I execute start replication, first thing you notice is deletes the table, recreates the table, reloads the data. The status is load executed, change to replicate in process. Logging tables DB triggers are created. Any changes the status is replicate in process. Whatever the change is reflected to HANA. So this will happen very quickly. So I'll just show you very quickly. So start replication, click execute. Let's go to HANA Studio, click refresh. Replicate scheduled, right click on the table. Let's open data. Let's open content. You see table is drop, invalid table name. Click refresh. Table is created. Click refresh. At this point of time, go back to see status, refresh. You see the status load executed. Come back again, load executed. This is the status of the table. Come back. Now again refresh. Data is loaded. Come back again. Now it changed to replicate in process. Refresh again. Keep refresh. So meanwhile, when it changes from load executed to replicate in process, let's go to LTRC. Now here refresh again. Here logging tables and DB triggers are activated. Logging table and DB trigger activated. So once this is activated, go back to HANA Studio, click refresh. It changed to replicate in process. Now right click on the table and data preview. This is the data in HANA and this is the data in the source. Now if you make any change, for example, company code 1000, I'll go here, I'll make a change from 100 to say 600. So this value 100 I'm changing to 600. Click save. Database record successfully created. You have to just refresh. For 1000 company code, the change is 600. So when business is right click, open data preview, click analysis, BUKRS VV010. Now when business is viewing data, here we have company code 1600, BUKRS 3000. So when business is doing some kind of analysis, now if you make any change or add any new record, for example, create a table entry, create with template, I'll just change to 4000. I'm creating fourth record. Click save. Now just refresh. The fourth record is here. 4000. Fourth record, the company code is 1000. So instantly it updates in real time to HANA. For example, if I delete a record, I'll select company code 1000. So company code 1000 table, I delete this record and delete entry. Click back. Thousand entry is not seen, it deleted. So whether you update, whether we delete, whether we insert, whatever the data is updated in real time to HANA. Replicate in process. If you go to LTRC, a logging table is created and DB status is activated. Just I would like to note one point over here. whatever the logging table we have in development, the table is different in quality and production. These tables cannot be transported. These tables are created by system, and these tables are created internally by system in different systems randomly. You can only transport the base table, but we cannot transport logging tables because these are controlled by system. If you want to see the logging table, what is logging table? Let's copy the logging table. Let me create session. Let us go to SC11. Click enter. So instead of taking the base table, copy paste the logging table. Let us click display. Click contents. Click contents. Click number of entries. The number of entries are 0. You see inside the logging table 601, there are no entries. So in logging table, the entries are 0. So when will logging table have entries? So this is the logging table. When it will have entries is from replicate, we need to execute suspend. So suspend is a temporary halt of data. When we use suspend, it means that we are not allowing a read module to read data from logging table. The data is halted over here. So let us execute suspend. I'll go back to LTRC. I'll close. So what are the different types of tables we can replicate? So before I go to suspend, you see all these different types of tables can be replicated. Now this is a transparent table. You can replicate structures, cluster table, pool tables, general view structures, append structure, index like tables. So all these table categories inside the ABAP data dictionary, all these kinds of tables can be replicated. So I'll click data provisioning. I'll select suspend load/replicate. So once I suspend now, what is going to happen here is at the HANA Studio, the status of action, it changed from replicate to suspend. In process, it changed to executed. So replicate, it changed to suspend. In process is to executed. Suspend will not delete logging tables or DB triggers. The difference between stop and suspend is stop is permanently deletion of logging tables and DB triggers, whereas suspend it holds data temporarily in logging tables. So what is the change that you can see here is replicate change to suspend and status in process change to executed. So when this change happen and the change is happening, read modules will not be allowed to read data from logging table. It disconnect only for temporary time. And we also need to make sure that we don't halt data for longer periods of time. For best practice, we have to make sure that this is suspend is only for shorter periods. Please do not use suspend for longer periods of time. The reason is logging tables have a limitation. Even logging tables have a limitation. If you see the logging table, this is the logging table. When you click on the technical settings, click on the technical settings of the logging table. The data class is APPL1, transaction data, because logging tables are mainly used for transaction data, because that is the data that is going to change frequently. And the size category is 0. Expected data records is 0 to so expected records is 0 to 6900. So these are the number of records a table is expected. So we have to make sure that, because this is the default setting by the system, and these tables are maintained by the system. So please make sure that these tables are not halted for longer periods of time. The reason is it full the logging table. If the logging tables are full, again there could be chances of data loss due to system unable to handle the situation. We may replicate thousands of hundreds of tables. So just please remember this. Never halt logging tables for longer periods of time, because there could be chances of loss of data due to the filling of logging tables. If it happens also, what we have to do is again we have to start the replication process. We have to start the replication again. So let us see this. Let me go back to LTRC. Suspend load. Suspend load. Click. I'm sorry, is everyone unable to hear me? I got a message. Participants are not able to hear me. So should I switch my connection? So please let me know. I can switch my connection to a different internet connection, that is the backup connection. Is it okay now, or still you have this issue? Okay, so I'll just continue. So please let me know if it is not okay. Next time I can just switch the connection. Thank you. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to change from replicate in process to suspend load. So what is the change that you can notice? Once you make this at the HANA Studio, the status change replicate to suspend and in process to execute. And once you make this change, now the data will start receiving in the logging table. So click back, click contents, click execute, click number of entries 0. I'll go back to LTRC and click execute. So even when you suspend, logging tables and DB triggers are still active. It's only temporary halt of data. That's why they're still active. So let us refresh. Let's go back to HANA Studio. Let us see the status. Click refresh. So once we refresh, action is suspended. Status is executed. So from now onwards, let us right click open data preview. These are the entries in the table. I'll go back to the base table. I'll go back to the base table. I'll select this record and I'll delete this record. I'll select this record and delete. Once I delete, click delete entry, click back. I delete a record, but please see I deleted 2000 record, but when I refresh, still the 2000 is in HANA. In the source it is deleted. At the source the record is deleted, but in HANA the record is still there. So let us check logging tables. Let me go to the logging table. In the logging table, the number of records is 0. Click close. Click on the number of entries again. Now instead of 0 you have 1 record. Click close, click execute. So on the 2000 company code, the operation is delete. You have a delete operation. I'll go back. I'll insert a new record. Click save. Click back. I insert a new record called 500 in BUKRS. This is the logging table. You have only one record. Let us refresh. 500 is insert. For 500 we have insert. Let me select 4000. Let us change from 100 to 900. Save. From 100 to 900 I change. Click back. Click refresh. It's update. So for every operation that you do on the table, for every operation that we do on the table, the DB triggers will identify the change, and the change is moved to the logging table. So here we perform three activities. One is I deleted the 2000 record. I inserted a new company code 500. I update the 4000 company code. But you see the data in HANA, 2000 is deleted. I refresh, but still you have this 2000. So what does this mean is, in the data provisioning, CE1 COPA table is suspended and executed unless and until the status is changed back to suspend. Suspend should change back to replicate, and executed should change back to in process. So how does it change? How does it change from suspend to replicate? By using resume. I'll go back to LTRC. I'll click on data provisioning. I'll click on resume load / replication. Click execute. Now once I execute resume, what you notice over here is, once I resume the replication, what you notice over here is, in the HANA Studio, suspend will change to replicate, execute will change to in process. The data inside the logging table, the three entries, these three entries will get deleted. All these three entries will get deleted. After the update is made to HANA, all three entries from the login tables are deleted, and the table is again empty. So let me perform resume load, execute, resume replication, click refresh. Let's go back to HANA Studio. In the HANA data provisioning editor, suspend is executed. Let's refresh. Now once the resume is done, now again it is changed the status back to replicate in process. So once it is back to replicate in process, so what is going to happen? The data from login tables are going to get deleted. Now the data from here, when I refresh, the data is deleted from login tables. And where did this data go? Now again the read module will start reading the data from login table. Again the number of entries in login table is 0. The read module will send to write modules, and write module send to HANA. Once we go back to HANA, open the table, refresh. You see now the data from the source table. So 2000 is deleted, 4000 is updated, from 100 to 900, and 500 is inserted. Whatever the data that you have on the source, the same data will be available in HANA. This is resume and suspend. Suspend is a temporary halt of data in logging tables. Until the activities in SAP HANA is completed, we just halt the data. Once the HANA system is up and running again, we resume. Once we resume, whatever the data that is halted, all the data from logging table is again moved to target table, deletes the logging table, deletes the entries in the logging tables, and it works as usual, like replicate. So tomorrow we continue stop, and then we see advanced replication settings in tomorrow's session. Any questions for today's session until here? Please ask me. Just I would like to recap what we have seen today. So today we started with replicate. So when do we go for replicate? Replication option. Whenever you have frequently changing data scenarios. Once you change the table from load to replicate, first the table is deleted. Table is deleted. Table is recreated. Table is reloaded with all the data. So during this process, the status of the job is load executed. From load executed, it changed the status to replicate in process. When it changes, logging tables and DB triggers are created. DB triggers to identify any events on the table. DB triggers to identify any events on the table, and logging tables a temporary halt of data when you do suspend. And when you resume, the data from logging tables is updated to HANA. So there is a question over here, what if the logging tables are full? If the logging tables are full, and if you think the volume of data expectation is very high, there are two procedures you can do. The procedure one, that is what we generally do. First thing is, you can change the size category in the logging table. You can change the size category in the logging table by activating the program. Or if you think you cannot change the size category in the program, you need to re-replicate the table from scratch. So either you can change the size category, or you have to re-replicate the table for larger tables. Okay, so here we have few questions. I'll just read out these few questions over here and answer these questions. The first question is, during practice, would we be able to create our own configuration? Yes, you can create your own configuration. The thing is, usually when working in real world, we don't create. These are created by admin guys. But still, you can simulate the same exercise. You can simulate, but you cannot finish the configuration. But you can simulate the exercise. Until the clicking of finish button, you can simulate. LTRC records is transportable, or do we need to create in each of the system? The records are executed from the respective source systems. SLT development will be connected to ECC development. SLT quality will be connected to ECC quality. SLT production to ECC production. So in the landscape, you have three SLT systems. One is SLT development, the other one SLT quality, and third one is SLT production. So we never move data. We never move data from development to quality or production. Always we get data from the source system. Now you basically connect these RFCs to the pointing to the source systems. So you're moving the metadata, but not the data. Data always you get from the respective source systems. So next question here, what happens? Okay, 1 minute. I think in between we have some questions. Sometimes there are few messages like voice breaking. and suddenly the question comes up in between. Okay, so the next question here is, after suspend, what if the logging tables is full? After suspend, if the logging tables are full, as we discussed, there are two procedures. Either you need to change the size category of the logging table, or you have to re-replicate the table. Next question. What happens when the load activity is performing, and if we need to suspend? Target system is down. There is no logging table also. What happens to data? Basically, when you do load, there are no logging tables created. So when you do load, there are no logging tables created. Only for replication, the logging tables are created. So when we say load, it is for full load. It is for full load, but not the replication load. Next question. Next question. After suspend, what if we do insert a record and the update value on the same new record and finally delete the same record? How it is saved in logging table? Okay, the question here is, for the same record I do multiple actions. For example, I create a new record. I change the same record. So now there are two operations. One is insert and the other one is update. So for the same ID, you have two operations. One is the insert of data and the other one is the update of data. So always it takes the latest version of the log based on the timestamp. So for every insert, there is a timestamp associated in the logging table. It takes the latest version of the logging table. For example, you insert and then you update. So first it performs the insert operation and then it performs the update operation until it goes to the latest status. For example, first it performs insert and then it goes to the latest timestamp, which is update. So when you resume, it always makes sure that the data in the source system and target system is until the current status. So how does it know for a record the current status? Based on the timestamp in the logging table. So based on the timestamp, it can identify, okay, this is the latest timestamp for this record. What happens when you resume replication at HANA? So both are same. Whether you do resume in LTRC or whether we resume in HANA, both these options are same. There is no difference at all. But only that Why should we log on to ECC every time? Sorry, why should we log on to SLT every time? So we don't have to log on to SLT every time to perform. So quickly you can directly do in the HANA Studio without even logging into SLT system. So for our convenience, in the HANA Studio, we have data provisioning so that we can have everything in one user interface rather than having in multiple user interfaces. So next question. After creating a view, if you made changes to data, would it be updated in the view too? Yes. So whether you're using a view or a table, the only difference is view doesn't contain data and table contains data. But the view always get data in runtime. At that point of time, the view is executed and checks what is the latest data for those records and only gets those records into HANA. Table physically contain, but view, it executes at that point of time. And if any changes happens to the underlying tables of the view, if you use replicate, it gets the data in real time for view as well. Where in SLT do we do ABAP coding for mapping? So tomorrow I'm going to show you where we use ABAP in SLT. Tomorrow's class I'm showing you this one. We use it in IUUC REPL content T code. Is every table must be loaded first and then replicate, or table can be replicated directly? You can replicate the table directly. You can replicate the table directly. When I try to save an attribute created every time, I get a message assign object to a change. When I configure in the T code LTRC, then 4 tables copied, DD0, 2L, 2T, 8L, and jet copa table should not be copied. What is the number of data transfer jobs, number of initial load jobs, number of calculation jobs in SLT is different server, how create RFC connection, how configure in LTRC T code. I think all these questions in one question it has. So my first question is, when I try to save attribute view created every time, I get a message assign object to change. So basically it is recording the changes. That's why you get this message. But always you can cancel. You can cancel this and activate again if you do not want to assign to a change. When I configure in T code LTRC, excuse me, because we are using the same configuration, that's why you can see DD0, 2L, 2T and 8L, these are the default table replicated from the source system. So these are system tables, these are replicated by source system. What is the number of data transfer jobs? You can take a data transfer initial jobs as 1, data transfer jobs as 2, and calculation job as 1 to calculate the statistics. So usually this is dependent upon how many tables you're replicating. It depends on how many tables you're replicating. It's up to your choice. How many you give is your choice. But make sure that we use the system resources optimally. Optimally, we have to use based on the background jobs available in SM50. If SLT is in different server, how to create an RFC connection? Procedure is same. There's no difference in how to create an RFC connection. Procedure is same. There's no difference at all. But just that SLT is in a different server. Last question here, how to configure an LTRC code? So in LTRC you have a create button. Click on the create button. So we have seen in the Friday session. Once you click on the create button, you can start to create the configuration. So one more clarification I want to give. DB triggers are not available on the application server. DB triggers are available in the database. So we cannot see DB triggers in the application server. They're in the database. And read modules and write modules are basically programs that execute in the background. So these are the programs that execute in the background. These are standard programs. Next question, how to do a re-replicate? Re-replicate is nothing but you have to stop the current replication, again replicate the table. Again you're repeating the same process of repeating the replication. Stop and replicate. How do I change the size category of a logging table in runtime? You should not change the size category in runtime. You have to first stop. We have to first stop, make a change, and then replicate the table. We should never do it in runtime. What if we update, delete records at target? So if you update and delete records in the target, you're not maintaining integrity of data. So integrity of data is lost. So instead of deleting data in the target, always make sure that you delete data in the source. So always that is the best practice to maintain the data integrity. Next question, the RFC connection need to be defined independently for each environment. Exactly. Because these are three different systems, so you require three different RFC connections. Next question. How do we get tables and data when we have SLT installed on a separate host? Procedure is same. There is no difference at all. Even it is installed on a separate host, or even when you have SLT on the same machine, there is no difference at all. Just that instead of having one computer, we have two computers now. But whatever the operation that it performs, it is exactly the same. There is no difference at all. From a developer point of view, there is no difference. But from system point of view, yes, there is performance. Because we are not sharing the same background jobs of the ECC system. We have our own background jobs that are dedicated for SLT. We're not sharing the background jobs of ECC. because when you have SLT installed on the ECC, we are sharing these jobs of ECC. So the advantage here is you're not sharing, it is an independent system. Otherwise, the options are same. What is the difference in the T code LTR and LTRC? LTR is the old transaction code, whereas LTRC is the new transaction code. So initially when SLT was released, we used to use LTR, but now SLT changed the T code to LTRC. What will be GUI for SAP LT server? You can use both SAP GUI or you can use ABAP WebDyn Pro. Using an ABAP WebDyn Pro, you can do the configuration in the ABAP WebDyn Pro screen, or you can directly use an SAP GUI to keep it very simple. So these are the questions that we have for SLT in the chat box. Any other questions, please let me know. So tomorrow we will see how we can check logs of failed jobs. Tomorrow I will show you how we can check the status of the failed jobs in SLT. So next question here is, if a client has HANA and S4 HANA, then data provisioning is required? Yes. For HANA, even for S4 HANA, data provisioning is required because we have to provision from non-SAP as well as from other SAP systems. So still we use SLT even for S4 HANA. Okay, then thank you everyone to attend today's session. I'll see you tomorrow same time. The session start, some participant asked question. Sessions start from 7 to 7:10 in between. Thank you. I'll see you in tomorrow's session.